go through the types of airbrushes and what you can do with each one of them and what you can't do, and the types of color. I'll say paint, but it's not really paint. I use ink, and I'll explain that to you here in a minute. But anyway, okay. There are two types of airbrushes. This is a single stage siphon type airbrush. What this does, here's the trigger right here. You push the trigger, you get air and you get paint all at the same time. It is air going through here, and it siphons paint out of this jar up through here and makes your paint, makes your mark. These, I guess they work good. I've not used this since I've had it, but there's a better kind that I like, and that is this one right here. This is a gravity feed, and this one, you put your ink in the top, and the air hooks up down here, and it's called a two-stage. And let's see if I can do this where y'all can see it. Here is the trigger, and you push it down for air, and you pull it back to get your color out, to paint your paint. So you have some flexibility there. You have a lot more, like I said, flexibility and more. You can get more precision out of it, is what I'm saying. Of course, you're having to do two things at once. It takes a little getting used to, but you push it down, get your air, and then if you just want a little bit, you pull it back a little bit. If you want a lot, you pull it way back, and I'll demonstrate all of that here in a few minutes. Now, this is not an expensive thing to get involved in. I bought this whole setup, which included this, both of these airbrushes. It was a whole kit, the hoses and everything. This is the air compressor. I don't know if you can hear it or not. It's really quiet. But anyway, bought it about 2 years ago on Amazon, and it was like $89. And I looked it up this morning just to see, and what a surprise, it's gone up to $129. But you can buy these compressors at Harbor Freight, and they're considerably cheaper. You can buy airbrushes, all kinds of airbrushes on Amazon for as little as $15, $19. This one seems to be a pretty good little airbrush. It's fairly accurate and fairly, it works good. So it doesn't cost you a fortune to get into it, but it costs a little bit. So what I'm wanting to demonstrate, this is what I've done before. And of course I'd carve the bowl, and for a long time you just leave it. Just shoot finish on it and leave the leaves same color as everything else. But started doing the thing with the airbrush, and I'm not trying to just completely coat this leaf just to paint it solid green. Just want to tint it a little bit so that it's got some color to it, so that it just adds a little bit to the appearance of the bowl. This one here was done probably 3 or 4 years ago. Nick Agar did these. It's called a Viking bowl, and he was our lead demonstrator, and I was the room assistant twice and the cameraman once. So I had to sit through his demo 3 times, and by the 3rd time I thought, okay, I got this. So I came home and I made this. You you turn a nice pretty little bowl, and then you just beat the heck out of it with anything that you can come up with to give all this texture to it. And he did, on the inside of his, he did red going into yellow. And I didn't really think that was all that cool. So I did purple into blue back into purple. But you can see in here that you can still see the grain in the wood through the paint. And I'm not trying to, cover up all the wood with paint or ink or whatever, but it's just kind of an accent thing. So that's what I've been trying to do. We're going to start with this one, and I'll show you what it will do. And to start out with, I'm going to use black because it shows up best on this board. I just put a few drops of black ink in this cup, just maybe 4 or 5 drops. And now I'm going to just put maybe a tablespoon or 2 full of water in there. And you don't use much. Let me explain to you first about the colors, about the ink. This is water-based ink. These are the ones that I've bought. You can buy these at Hobby Lobby. You can also get them on Amazon. And you can buy these little packages of about a dozen of these little bottles. It's got all kinds of real wide color assortment. And then I found out which ones I use the most of, so I would go back and buy the bigger bottles. These are about $4 or something a piece. And they're water-based, like I said. You can clean them up with water. And if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Solvent-based paints or oil-based paints, once you put them on there, they're there for the duration, and they're hard to get cleaned up, get off. And you have to use turpentine or mineral spirits or lacquer thinner to clean your gun up when you're through. And lacquer thinner's $12 a gallon now, so that's a lot of money just to clean something up. Then, here about 2 weeks ago, I was looking and I found, where are we at? This stuff here. And it says airbrush paint. And there are 24 colors in there. It was about $18, $19. And it is water-based paint. I have not used any, like I said, solvent-based paint because, like I said, it's just too hard to clean up. All you need to clean this thing up is water. And, okay, back to the airbrush. Like I said, it's 2-stage, and the heart of this whole thing is this needle. Barely can see it, but it's there. And when you pull back on that trigger, that pulls the needle back, and it allows either a tiny bit or a lot or whatever you want of the paint to go through. Now, remember this needle. We're going to talk about it some more after a while. And all you do is push it in there until it stops, tighten this little nut, put the handle back on. The compressor will come on until it builds up pressure, and then it goes off. All right, we're going to put a little bit of black ink in here. That thing is about half full. Now, it comes with a cap. I would recommend using the cap. Oh, and gloves. You will get ink on your fingers. And even though it's water-based, it's ink. You get it on your fingers, it ain't coming off. It's on there for the duration. So, all right, let me show you here what we're doing. So, just going to try a real fine line here at first. Well, let's see. There's a little fine line. The closer you get, the finer your line's going to be. Of course, my hands shake a lot, so anyway. Now, you back up, and it's going to be bigger. Did you see what I'm doing? And, but I don't know if we can do this or not. Let's try it and see. No, you can kind of, I will do some more on that later. Now, one more thing. Don't ever put sealer on what you're going to airbrush, what you're going to paint. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I have done a little square here of some sealer. The wood, this paint is very thin. It's like water, and it soaks right into the wood. and it dries very quickly. Now, watch what happens when you spray it on the sealer. It doesn't soak in. So don't seal your wood first. You can seal it afterwards. You can put finish on it afterwards. But like I said, you can't wipe that off. But this is like pouring water on the hood of a freshly waxed car. You see what it's doing there? That's what happens if you try to use sealer. Another quick thing. Ink dries really fast. They give you this little doober here to put this in so it'll stand up, because if you lay it down, the ink's going to spill out. But if you leave that sitting in there with ink in it for 3 or 4 minutes, it's going to dry. And then when you pick it back up, it's not going to work. Now see, it's still got a little ink in it because I poured most of the ink out. But the way to combat that, the way I combat that, is do this. Put it in a deal of water and just leave it there until you get ready to use it again. That way the ink's not going to dry. You can pick it up, pour the water out. It's clean, and there you go. One thing that you can do with this is blend colors together. Like, be sure you got all the ink off your fingers before you pick something up, because you'll get it on this deal. Blending colors like that. Say this is the bottom of your bowl, this circle here. And so we're going to give this a shot and see what happens. So, I'm going to start off with some bright red. Just put a little bit of it in there. I don't need very much. I'm trying to stay in the line. Okay, I'm going to pour that out. Now we're going to go with a little bit darker red. You don't have to clean this thing out every time you do it with this, because you're blending colors. I don't know if you can see the color difference there or not. There's a little bit. Okay. Pour that one out. Go with this one. A little bit darker. And you always overlap it. Now, I'm not making a circle, but I think maybe you get the idea. And then we're going to go a little bit darker. And I'm just pouring a tiny bit in there. Okay, now then, we're going to really change it up. Now I'm going to back off and get a little bit of that purple up in the red, so it kind of does that. Just some blue, or I'll tell you what, let's go with this color blue. Okay, and then I ran out of space. We'll skip a color and do something else. There we go. So you see what I'm talking about? You get the idea? It's a lot easier to do this if you're doing a bowl. It's a lot easier to do this on the lathe because it's sitting there spinning, and you just get it going as slow as you possibly can, and then you go up and just kind of just ease it in there, spray it in there real lightly, and do it. So, like I said a while ago, okay, let me show you one other little thing here. This is thinned down a little bit, not very much. Still got a little bit of blue in there, but that'll go away. Now, you see that I've pretty much covered that completely. But if I pour, where'd my deal go? I'm going to double the amount of water in there. And you see how it is? Thinned it down to the point where it's tinting the wood and you could still see the grain through it, but it's not painting it solid like it did up there. And all I did was add water to it. I do a lot of leaves. One thing is because leaves are easy. Leaves are two curved lines. And like I did down here, you can make them different shapes. You can make just regular leaves, little. You can make something that comes out like that, you know. So that's why I do a lot of leaves, because leaves are easy. And show you how we can shoot them here in a second. Okay, now this is just green, and it's kind of an ugly green. It's just green. See what it looks like. Y'all aren't grading me on this, are you? Okay, good. And if something like that happens, wipe it off. I got a little too much too quick. Now, what I'm doing, I'm pushing down, but I'm not pulling back very much at all. I'm just getting a very little light spray of green. Now, leaves are pretty much the same color, but they're shaped different, and they've always got shadows on them, and this and that and the other. And if you look at a leaf, there's a lot of different colors to it. Now, I went out of the line there, but I kind of messed that up. Let's try this one. It's different doing it on a flat surface than it is doing it on a carved surface. Okay, say I want to make that darker. What you do is put a little bit of black paint in there. And I mean a little bit. I'm dipping that in there, dipping it in here, mixing it around. And you're going to see how much darker. Keep your board here to, this is a practice board, and this is what you need to do. But you get the idea. There we go. I turned this just specifically for this demonstration, and while it was still on the lathe, I sealed the bottom and the top. So if I did get a little paint on there, I can wipe it off. But I made this just for this, and I've kind of tested it a little bit. So we're going to test it some more. And I want this to be kind of a lime green leaf, like I said. So got the green here. I'm going to put some yellow in it. And like I said, it's amazing to me. I don't know what the makeup of that paint is, but it mixes up perfectly with this ink. So that's good. That is good. All right, let's paint something, see what happens. You notice I'm not putting the cap on this. That's to keep you from spilling it, but I've kind of gotten used to not spilling it. So this has got holes in it. And you think, okay, I don't really want to paint the inside of that. So how am I going to keep from doing that? You take a towel and stuff in there, and that keeps you from painting the inside of it. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more on this one leaf here that we started. There's a leaf down in behind there. I'm going to deal with it here in a minute. Okay. I'm trying to get here where you can see what I'm doing. And you need to put a little bit on the edges. Makes it look better. We've got a vine there that we're going to do. Like I said, the leaves in the back, I'm not dealing with them right now. We'll deal with them here in a little bit. But you see, you can get right up next to that edge and not get paint on it if you're careful. Aha! See what I just did? I just spilt it. But I didn't spill it on my bowl. Oh yeah, and I would recommend that when you do this, you wear an old t-shirt and an old pair of blue jeans. This is one of my oldest Hunt County shirts, so I'm thinking, okay, I'll sacrifice it tonight if I have to. Now I just poured a little bit of paint in that pot, and you see how far this stuff goes, because you're not spraying very much of it at all. I don't know if you can see in there, but anyway. Pour that back in there, put that in there. All right, I'm going to darken this up some. I've got this emerald green. I'm going to pour this in there and see what that does. Not much. It darkened it up a little bit. Pour some more in there. Okay, now I've got a dark lime green. But all right, again, this is a black. That's how much black I'm putting in there. Is not much. Okay. Now then, I'm going to go back and kind of shade in some spaces where leaves are over other leaves and stuff like that. I've got one. Where's it at? Okay, yeah, this one right here. The leaf is kind of folded over and it needs a shadow underneath it. A little dark spot there. Where are we at? Okay. All right. Now where leaves are over the top of other leaves, I'm going to darken those up. Here's another little leaf that's way down there. And you're just doing some shading basically. There's a leaf under a leaf. And another one. Now I made that one a little too dark, but I'll try to do these edges here so they don't look so bad. Here's some more leaves underneath leaves. Almost poured it out again. Okay. Now then, really, that's about it. Now you're saying, okay, where are the veins? You didn't carve any veins in this. You didn't burn any veins in this. Where are the veins? The leaves have veins. What I'm going to do with this, and I didn't bring it tonight, I bought some Sharpies, but they're fine point Sharpies, and there's yellow and light green and dark green and all. God, there's 14 different colors. And I'm going to take them, and that's pretty much what I did on that other piece over there, is take that Sharpie and just draw the veins in with it. And so I don't do any sanding after I've got the color on there, unless I don't like it and I'm trying to get it off. It's like $129 for the pump. Actually, there's 3 airbrushes, the hoses, little wrenches, and some little fittings, and all of this stuff. And I thought, that looks pretty good. And I had another one of these that's a little bit bigger than this, but it's a whole lot louder. You see how quiet this one is. It's on Amazon, and I don't know, but it's like $129 now. So, okay, I'm going to run a little bit more water through it. Dirty water now. Okay, turn this off, and you got to take your pressure off of it. Okay. Unhook the air to it. I can't do this with gloves on. Can't do hardly anything with gloves on. And unscrew this. Just loosen this nut here, pull this out. This needs to be cleaned. Let me show you. I've run water through it and everything else. But yeah, you see that right there? That came off of the needle when I wiped it off. So you can't, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, you can just run water through it and it'll clean it out. It won't do it. You got to take that needle out and wipe it off and get it good and clean. Now, a guy told me one time, this whole thing is chrome plated and it's not going to rust. But this needle is not chrome plated. It's steel of some kind. And he told me, I still managed to get paint on my finger. Look at that. He told me before I ever put it up to put a little oil on it. It could be WD-40, a little bit of 3-in-1 oil. I usually lay it down there and just put a little oil on it and rub it. And then put it back together. And that way, since you're dealing with water, that steel needle is not rusting. And then, you don't have to do that. I will pour some alcohol through there. Let me put the handle back on. And it's got alcohol in the pot right now. But I'm going to hook it back up and run that alcohol through it, and then I'm comfortable that it's clean. Yeah, it's spraying out a good even spray, and see if I can get the ink off my finger. This is a Pache airbrush. Pache is the people that invented airbrushes how long ago. And this one, it's a two-stage. It's got a few more adjustments on it. You can use this thing right here. If you don't want to use much air, it won't let you use much air. But you can back that off and you can use all the air you want. But anyway, it makes a little bit finer line. This thing was $70-something by itself, and probably wouldn't have bought it if I hadn't had a gift card. But it is maybe a little tiny bit more precise than this one is. But usually I use this one, and it doesn't make much difference. I did use this one on that bowl over there with all the little tiny leaves. And you can, of course, you can adjust it on here, but I use about 10 pounds of pressure on this one. No, you don't. You put more pressure on it, you're blowing more air through it, and it's kind of scattering it more. You might be able to get a finer line, for one thing, if you had a steadier hand than I do, and secondly, if, using a little bit less pressure. Now, those of you who have a big air compressor in your shop, you've probably got a regulator on it. And if you can adjust that regulator down to 10 or 15 pounds, then you could, there are adapters that you could get to hook this hose to your airline and use your compressor, not even have to go buy a compressor. So, but like I said, these are not too expensive. You can get, Harbor Freight's got them, and other places have got them, Amazon, different places. A wood preference? Lighter woods are better. This is mesquite. And of course, whenever you do it, it's going to, darken the ink up a little bit because you're spraying it on darker wood. I've got a piece at home that I did, one of the first pieces that I carved was black walnut, and I tried to color it, and it looks awful. But I mean, there's some color on it, but it's so dark. I mean, that piece of black walnut is just nearly black. It's really dark. So The mesquite worked okay. I would go with ash or sycamore or something, lighter colored wood. I did this and I sprayed it with lacquer and satin lacquer and came out fine. I think this other piece over here is polyurethane. Yeah, this is Minwax oil-based polyurethane sprayed over the water-based ink. So, but you just got to let it dry for a while, and then I don't think it'll matter much after that. Spray the whole thing with gloss, either polyurethane or lacquer, so the bowl part is shiny. And then after that set up for a while, I have a small can of satin, let's say lacquer. I've got a small can of satin lacquer, and I'll sit down with a little bitty brush and paint the leaves with the satin, and that way they're not shiny, real shiny like the bowl is. The bowl is shiny, but the leaves are not so shiny. Thank you.